So now for that particular one, what we are doing, as I said, firstly you have to take care of the white spaces, and then secondly you have to take care of the star printing. Correct? So what we are going to do in such a case, first loop is going to run in the same way how we are running it, right? Now for the second loop, we are going to divide it into two parts. So I'm going to get rid of this particular loop. And what are the two things which we are going to do? So first one is add the white space to the left. That is what we want to do, right? And that white space is actually important because for every iteration, that white space is actually going to get changed. We cannot just provide it, right? And then second one is going to be add star to the output. Okay, so for the white space, what we will be doing, if you will actually observe how the white space is coming, let's come here. Let's just look into the space. So for this particular one, how many rows do we have? Total number of rows we have here is 4, correct? And if you will see, for 4 rows, how many white spaces do we have? Here we have 3, here we have 2, here we have 1, and here we have 0. So, you know how you have to draw any of the pattern. Whenever you are going to do it, you always have to link, like you just always have to form a sequence. So, if you will actually observe, if we are going to run a loop from I to 4, in such a case, how we are going to get this value 3? That is going to be nothing but number of rows minus I, correct? So, for the first iteration, your number of rows are going to be 4. For the first iteration, we are going to get value 3. For the second iteration, we are going to get the value 2. For the third iteration, we are going to get the value 1. And for the fourth iteration, we are going to get the value as 0. So that is how we are getting all these white spaces, right? So that is what you have to do. So now we will be coming here and then we are going to write down the code for adding the white space. So here what we will be doing, we are going to have a j. This one is going to get initialized from 1. And for how long will we be running it? So just now we figured out how it is going to come. Number of rows minus your value of I. And then in the every iteration you just have to do j plus plus. So that is how you are actually going to create the white space on the left hand side. Okay. So in this particular one, what do you have to do? Whatever your string is there, to that one you just have to add a white space. With the help of that, you will be actually successfully adding the white space. Now you have to take care of the output, how the output is actually coming there. So let us come back here. If you will realize, for the first one, how many stars do we have? 1 star. How many stars do we have here? 3 stars. How many stars do we have here? 5. How many stars do we have here? 7. So if you will realize, this is nothing but all the odd numbers. And how you can get odd numbers? Through 2n minus 1. So this one is actually going to return you odd numbers. So from like in our sequence, from where are you going to generate it? You know your I is actually going to go from 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So if your I is 1 and if I'm going to use the formula 2i minus 1, so this one is actually going to return you value 1. So this one is actually going to print your star 1 time. If your I is 2, so this one is going to become 2 into 2 minus 1, which is going to return you 3. So this one is going to print 3 stars, correct? If you are taking I as 3, so what is going to happen? You are going to get 5. So this one is going to print your stars 5 times. You do not have to worry about the white space because that one is already considered by the loop which we are taking. And if your I is 4, you are going to get 7. So from this, you are going to print star 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So now it must be clear to you, if we want to add a white space, what do we have to do? And if we want to print just a star, how you are going to do it. So let's come back here, and for this one, what we will do, we are going to take another loop. And let me take it with some k so that you will not get confused about how this is coming into the picture. And then for your k, what you will be doing, if your k is not becoming equal to 2 into I minus 1. So what I'm actually doing, we are actually saying that if your k is not equal to, like if it is not an odd number, in such a case, you do not have to do. And you know what is the another approach of doing it? Instead of incrementing your k one by one, what you can do, you can increment your k by 2. So up to you how you want to put a loop there. We have various ways of achieving it. And here in every iteration, what do you have to do? Just add a star. Now if you will run, this one is going to print the empty space and this one is going to print the star. So let's run and see the output. Sorry. Let's run it now. So you can see it is actually printing it in the same form. In such a case, column is not actually playing any role. Everything is actually handled by the rows only, right? So I will reiterate what it is actually going to do. So we have to do it in two parts. One part is going to print all the white space and the another one is going to do all the star part. So for the white space, what we are doing, we actually formed a logic that how it is going to be there. We saw for the first row, we have 3 spaces. For the second row, we had 2 spaces. For the third row, we had 1 space. And for the fourth one, we had 0 space. And how many stars are there? It is like 1, 3, 5, 7. And you know, even if we would have considered it for one more value, like let us say, I'm actually considering one more example so that even if it is not clear to you, now it will get, because the second one is just extension of this one. So if this pattern is clear to you, you can actually solve rest of the two patterns easily. So we have 5. Here we are going to create 7. And earlier we had up to 7 only, right? In this case, I'm going to create up to 9. Alright, so like this, we are going to have it. If you will observe how many space we are going to have here, 1 space. If you will observe how many space are we going to have, 2. How many space are we going to have here? We have 3 space. How many space are we going to have here? It is going to be 4. So that is how it is going to be there. So how many spaces we are having here? 4. Here 3. Here 2. Here 1. Here 0. If we'll have to see how many stars we are having, here 1. Here 3. Here 5. Here 7. Here 9. So these spaces are actually decreasing in every row and these ones are actually just increasing how we increase our odd numbers. Alright, so for this one what we are doing, we are just doing rows minus I. And that I showed you for this particular case, how many rows are we going to have? 5. So if your I is 1, how many space are we going to have? 5 minus 1, that is 4. If your I is 2, how many spaces are we going to have? 5 minus 2, that is 3. If your I is 3, how many spaces are you going to have? 2. If your I is 4, how many spaces are you going to have? 1. If your I is 5, how many spaces are you going to have? 0. So this is how all the spaces are coming into the picture. And for this one, what we are doing, we are just checking if it is an odd number. Then you have to just display it. So for that one, you know how you can generate odd numbers. So for the odd numbers, we have a way, that is 2i, like 2n, like in the general form if I am saying 2n minus 1. And here what I am doing, I am checking it against I. So that is how I am going to generate all the stars there. So whatever the output I have showed you, that one I showed with rows 5. So this one is actually exactly the same one which we have seen in our screen. If I will update it. And you know, whenever we have to deal with the patterns, what you should be doing in such a case, not just with the help of one example, you will have to actually check it against 2 or 3 examples. Then you should be forming some pattern out of it. Just by using one, you are not going to get the correct pattern. So even if I have put 4, it is working fine. If I am going to put 7, then also it is going to work in the correct order. That is how it has to be there, right? You can see how the stars are actually incrementing here. So I hope this pattern must be clear to you all. Now let us look into the second pattern. All right. So the second pattern is, you will see all the 1 in the first row. Second row, all about 2. Third row is all about 3. Fourth row is all about 4. And fifth row is all about 5. Okay. So before coming to this pattern, for this particular one also, I will be showing you some general approach, and then we will be moving here. So let us say I want to print something like, let us say 1, 1, 1, 5 times. And then all 4s. And then all 5s. So if you will observe, like this is a general pattern. From this one only we are going to extract it out, and then we are going to print it there. Very minor change has to be done, but you should be able to understand how we are going to form it here. So if you will observe in the first row, here we are like first loop which we run, that we run for rows. The second loop which we run, that one we run for columns, right? If you will observe here, for every row, value is 1. So from where, for every column in this row, value is 1. So from where that must be taking it? It must be taking it from rows, right? Why? Because let us say I is for rows, this loop, and J is for columns. Okay. So here what we must be doing, if your I is 1, I'll actually write down some basic code. Okay. So through that you can actually relate to what I'm speaking. So let us say we have something like I, we are going to run from 1 to n. N is nothing but 5 here. Okay. And then we have columns. So that column we are actually going to run from 1 to n. So that is how we are running it. Inside that, if you will observe, for every row what we are printing 1, for every for second row what we are printing 2. So what it must be doing, it must be printing only value of I. So that is how you can actually generate this pattern. If you had something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I will be just writing it down. So in this particular case, like you should be understanding, if we are following one approach, how it is actually relatable. So in this particular case, what we are doing, we are going to run a loop that is going to run from 1 to n. And then we are going to run another loop that is going to run from 1 to n. And inside this, what we are just doing, we are printing value of j. Why we are printing value of j? If you will observe, j value is initially going to be 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is what we are doing. So if you are going to print only I, this is what you are going to get. And if you are printing only j, this is what you are going to get. So before jumping into that question, I will be first of all creating a program where I will be showing it to you how this one is actually forming. Okay. I'll be creating another instance, and then we will be going back there and updating it. So here, let us say, let me have, like I'll be taking one variable n. That one I'll take it as 5. Okay. And here I will be taking one loop which is going to start from 1 to 5. And that one was for the rows. Now I'm going to create it for the column. And in this particular one, what do we have to do? Like I'm going to take a string. That string I'm going to initialize it here, and you must be clear about why are we using it, because I want to capture everything for one row in one string, because console log is just going to print value one time and then it is going to move the cursor to the second line. That is what we do not want here, right? So what we are doing, before starting any row, I'm resetting it to empty string, and then when I'm entering inside this, I am building up the content accordingly. So here what I just want to do, so whatever value of string you are having, I'm just adding j to it. Okay, and then here what you will do, just console out your string value, because if I'm not going to console it out here, it is going to get reset here, and I want to actually print all the values column by column. So you can see this is printing 1 2 3 4 5, exactly how I have discussed here for j. Now if I will update it to I, you are going to see this value here. So let me update it to I, and then you will see it is getting printed 1, then 2, then all 3, then all 4, and then all 5. So this is how you can print it in this rectangular manner. If you want to print it in the pyramid, what we will be doing, so here if you will observe what we were adding, we were just adding star. Instead of adding star, what you can do, you can just add I. Remaining code is going to remain same. So now if you will observe, it is actually getting displayed like this. If you will observe here, it is up to 5. So what I will do, I'll just make the changes here. I will make it 5, and then you can see it is getting printed exactly in the same way how it was expected. So you can understand how it is actually coming. Firstly, we are adding white space, and then we are adding, here you can actually say adding value to the output. Correct? So through that, you can actually get this desired output. Alright, now we can look into the third pattern.